For the past 6 months, we have been forced to maintain social distancing. Let's underline the problem here. We need to understand with what we need maintain the social distance. 1 John chapter 5, verse 21 says keep yourself away from the idols. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 14 says keep yourself away from worshipping idols or to have any idols. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7 says keep yourself away from the myths and deception. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 3 says keep yourself away from sexual immorality. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 22 says flee away from the evil desires of youth. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 11 says keep yourself away sinful desires. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 5 says keep yourself away from corrupt minds. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21 says test everything and stay with what is good. Samson was betrayed by his lover Delilah, who ordered a servant to cut his hair while he was sleeping and turned him over to his Philistine enemies, who plucked out his eyes and forced him to grind grain in a mill at Gaza. While there, his hair began to regrow. Because he was not distancing. Ahab lived in Samaria, the royal capital established by Omri, and built a temple and altar to Baal there. These actions were said to have led to severe consequences for Israel, including a drought that lasted for several years, and Jezebel's fanatical religious persecution of the prophets of Yahweh, which Ahab condoned. Because he was not distancing from idolatry. David's sin with Bathsheba is the punishment for David's excessive self-consciousness, who had besought God to lead him into temptation, so that he might give proof of his constancy as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He did not distance himself from evil desires. The job of a godly king is to mediate God's authority, much like the role of a priest, as an intermediary between God and man. Saul, however, himself bowed to the pressures from his subjects and made decisions himself that might appear very pious, but were really rebelling against what God had asked him to do. He also consulted the dead spirit. He was not distancing from the corrupt minds. So let's be watchful and keep distance with what we need to. And this impacts our eternity.